So much has changed with these Ford Super Duties since the last time I did a comparison with the 7.3 and the 6.8. So I figured this is a good follow-up video to give you a little bit more information and see which engine is right for you. I borrowed these trucks from Garff Ford here in West Valley, Utah. Be sure to text the number down below if you would like to check for availability. Let's go ahead and check out some of the specs on these builds and then we'll jump into the engines. Both of these trucks are going to be 2026 Ford F-250s, four-wheel drive. Now this STX truck, you'll see has the STX package on it right there. This truck has the 6.8 liter gas engine. Now this XLT, you'll see has a chrome front bumper. This one has the optional 7.3 liter gas engine. Now if you don't remember, back in 2023 and 2024, the 7.3 came standard on XLT up. XL was the only truck available with the 6.8 liter, and I'll explain a little bit more with that here in a second. But yeah, as far as pricing goes, $1,500. These trucks are not apples to apples, so I'm not really comparing these trucks in terms of the trim levels, but I just want to show you which truck has which engine so that you're not confused. Why does Ford have two gas engine options? Because when you think about it, they're very, very similar, right? There are some differences, obviously, because one's a 6.8 liter, one's a 7.3. So displacement, yes, we understand that. Now the stroke is also different, and we'll go into detail there here in a second. Now, as I said earlier, back in 2023 and 2024, you could not get the 6.8 liter engine with your XLT Lariat trims. For 2025 and 2026, the reason why I think they changed that is because they were trying to show a lower price point on these trucks. So they basically optioned the 7.3 on the XLT up, basically, to make the trucks look more appealing price-wise. So with that being said, if you are after the 7.3, you can get it on the XL trim all the way up to the Platinum trim. The only truck you cannot get the 7.3 on is F450, and you cannot get it with a Platinum Plus package. So apart from that, if you're looking at King Ranch, Platinum, Lariat, XL, XLT, trimmer package, that's another thing. You cannot get the 6.8 liter with a trimmer package truck, even if it is an XLT. So yeah, the 7.3 is pretty specific for some trim levels and some packaging. So yeah, I think that for most people, if you're looking to tow a trailer, this is going to give you the extra torque that you need compared to the 6.8 liter. However, the 6.8 liter is probably going to check all the boxes for all people if you're not towing that heavy. I would say you'll see the towing numbers here, but I would say if you're someone after a 10,000, 12,000 pound trailer tow, this engine is perfect for that. Now, one thing to mention on this is the gross vehicle weight rating is different for both of these trucks. So when you are packaging out your trucks, if you want more payload, I'll show it to you here at the end, be sure to select the box for that. This one has a premium package, which automatically gives you the extra gross vehicle weight rating. So it goes from 10,000 to 10,500 for this F-250. It would be higher if you're looking at a F-350, so just keep that in mind. But yeah, both trucks have the same tires, so the capacity is going to be the same. Now, because they're both 3/4 tons, the tire pressure is probably going to be the same. But one thing I want you guys to see out back is this. On the 6.8 liter, this one does not have the upgraded GVWR. So you guys see here, it does just have these 3 leaves in the main pack here. If you look at the framing on both trucks, framing does not change on either truck. However, you do see on this side, you do have an overload leaf spring, and that's going to help give you more payload capacity because you can carry more weight with this truck. Both trucks do have a Class 5 receiver hitch, 2.5 inch opening, but I want you guys to see something really quickly. On this F-250 with the 6.8 liter gas engine, you guys see that axle, right? I'm going to show you guys the one on the truck across here. I'm not sure if this is a Sterling. I don't think it's a Dana, but let's go ahead and check out what that 7.3 liter has. Do you guys notice a difference on that rear axle? This one looks to be a little bit more overbuilt. and I'm only basing it off of the diff cover personally. But yeah, this looks to be a Sterling. If someone can chime in the comment section. But here's the front of it, as I would call it, versus, I gotta start bringing my creeper so I can get underneath these trucks and show you a little bit closer. But based off of the tubing and the diff cover, the 6.8 liter does have a smaller rear axle, and that's not a shocker because, again, that truck does have a payload upgrade package, higher gross vehicle weight rating, and it has the overload, so it's going to have more capacity out back. Now, this truck does have the 5th wheel prep package, which is an option. However, this XLT was optioned without it, and that's probably because the customer didn't need it. So let's go ahead and dissect these engines, because, again, essentially they are the same. They're just different displacements, right? This is introduced back in 2020. They have done some updates to it. The 7.3, I guess you could say, technically replaced the 6.2, but I would venture to say it was added on, and then they replaced the 6.2 liter with the 6.8 liter. Now, what's nice about both of these powertrains is their simplicity. They are both push rod and port injection, so you don't have to worry about buildup on the intake valves. I personally rather this versus direct injection, or if they want to add both, I'm not against that either. But regardless of it, the Hemi has port injection, although the GM engine does have just direct injection. Now, some people have mentioned they haven't noticed any issues with high mileage with the direct injection on those 6.6 liter L8T GM engines, but again, I prefer at least port injection or both. Now, with that being said, the 7.3 does have lower compression, so it's going to have a 10.5 to 1 compression ratio compared to a 10.8 to 1 compression. Now, if you read the owner's manual specifically for the 7.3 liter, they do recommend that you use premium, especially while you're towing. However, on the 6.8 liter, I don't think they mentioned this engine for a premium fuel. Now, that could be because of the compression ratio difference, but one thing I like about the 7.3 is obviously the power. So if you're looking to get the most out of a gas engine, look no further than this. So if you don't know, this engine does have 430 horsepower. Now, that does come on around 5,500 RPM. This 6.8 liter has 405 horsepower, but get this, it does come on a little bit sooner at 5,000 RPM. Now, we could make an assumption and say because of the stroke, maybe that's why the 6.8 liter does have the horsepower come on a little bit sooner. Because if you don't know, the stroke of this 6.8 liter is 3.68 versus 3.98 for the stroke. Now, as far as the bore goes, the bore is actually the same at 4.22. So that doesn't really change with these engines. Now, as far as the torque goes, this 6.8 liter does have 445 pound-feet of torque. That comes on around 4,000 RPM. And what's so crazy about this is this has more torque than Ram's Hemi. Okay? Now, on this side, 485 pound-feet of torque comes on around the same RPM at 4,000. And as I said, when you're looking at trucks like this, the torque is what you really want. And I've done a lot of towing tests in the past between the 7.3. I've done, I think, 1 or 2 potentially with the 6.8 liter. I know I've done 1. And I will say both of these engines perform really well. Now, one thing I like about Ford is this. If you do want lower gearing out back, I like lower gearing for 2 things. Number one, if you do live in areas where you have higher altitudes, like we're at 42 to 4,300 feet here in Utah, about where I'm at. Now, where I live at, it's like 5,000 feet. So I climb a good bit when I go home. You have the option to get a 430 rear end on either truck. Now, getting that 430 could potentially change the axle that you get on this truck. And remember, if you get the locker, this one does have the locker on it too, that could also change the axle you get in the rear. So again, there's a few things you have to look at when you are building your truck. They could give you a more overbuilt axle by going to the 430 because they're assuming you need max tow, which means your truck's gonna be able to carry more weight as well. Now you guys remember how I said the 6.8 liter does have a shorter stroke, right? This also has a shortened crankshaft, so just keep that in mind, okay? Now, as far as updates go, I haven't heard of any updates since 2023 with either one of these engines. So on the 7.3, it does have, for the 2023 plus trucks, new piston rings and a water pump. I do believe they did update the engine too for the oiling, because I know from 2022 and earlier, those engines were having cam and lifter failure. So those things were probably most likely addressed. But when you look under the hood, you can't really see a big difference because these engines are so similar. For example, they both have cast iron blocks, aluminum heads. Hope you guys can see. You can see the heads. It's kind of hard to see the block down there. But pretty overbuilt engines. The one thing that I notice every time that sticks out to me is on the intake system. You guys can see right here, this is larger on the 7.3. It has more tubing here, and this is most likely to keep this engine a little bit quieter, right? But as far as the intake system goes, let's see, it looks pretty much the same. I would say that maybe the tubing here is a little bit smaller. Intake manifold, plastic. Same thing goes on this side. And both engines use a 5W30 oil. But yeah, apart from that, the only thing else to talk about is the transmission. Here's where Ford pretty much confused us all with these updates for the 25 plus Super Duties. If you're looking at a 6.8 liter, the only transmission option available is the 10R100, okay? For the 3/4 ton trucks that get the 7.3 option, for example, this truck here has the 10R100. 2024 and 2023 trucks, if they were 3/4 ton, would have the 10R140. I'm not sure why Ford decided to change that. Maybe, again, they were trying to save money where they could, so they went with the lesser transmission for 3/4 tons, because maybe a lot of guys that are buying these trucks aren't towing that much. And that's something I'm going to mention here in a second. I have to wait for these airplanes to go by because they mess up my thinking here. But regardless of it, let's just say you're someone who really wants the 3/4 ton with a 10R140 10-speed transmission. You are in luck if you would like that transmission, because maybe you're going to tow a little bit more. If you get the trimmer package, you can get the 3/4 ton 7.3 with the 10R140. Now the 10R140 is more overbuilt. That's the same transmission behind the diesel option. So if you are someone looking to get the most out of your truck, I would 100% go after that. Now if you're looking at F350, which is the 1 tons, if you get the 7.3, you do get the 10R140. If you get the 6.8, you get the 10R100. So just keep that in mind. Now, here's what I'll say. If you are someone who just wants to buy a big truck, some people just want the bigger Super Duty HD truck. In that case, you don't tow that much. You're mostly unloaded. I personally would stick with this 10R100 transmission, because I think after driving this truck today versus this one, you get a smoother transmission 100%. I think the torque converter on this truck is just more aggressive. So for some people, this one might feel a little bit more aggressive. So you might not like the way it feels when it's shifting gears, things like that. Whereas on the 10R100, you're gonna get a little bit more smoother feel. You're not gonna have the torque converter locking up as aggressive as it would be on this truck here. So I think that's why Ford did what they did. Now, obviously they did it to save money, but they also did it because I think most people really don't care about the transmission and they just want a smoother riding truck, and that's the other reason why they did it. And the last thing we're gonna do is I'm gonna show you the numbers on the door. This is the STX truck, okay? And remember, this does not have the upgraded gross vehicle weight rating. So right here, the front gross axle weight rating is going to be 4,400 pounds. The rear is 6,340 pounds. 10,000 pound GVWR. Okay. 3E is the axle code, so same axle code as that XLT over there. But you guys see the payload? 3,405 pounds. Tire pressure is 60 out front, 65 in the rear. On this XLT with the 7.3, front gross axle weight rating is going to be 4,800 pounds. The rear is 6,340, so they do increase that number there. Gross vehicle weight rating is increased by 500 pounds. Same axle code because 373 with the locker. All in payload is 3,716 pounds. Same tire pressure. Now, if these trucks were apples to apples, you guys see running boards, no running boards. Fifth wheel prep package, no fifth wheel prep package. This truck would probably have a little bit more payload capacity compared to this one because of the spec of these trucks. Even some of the equipment that this one has, it's going to be a little bit more heavier on this truck. So yeah, all in all, I think that if I were buying a truck, because I'm not towing as much, I probably would try out the 10R100 transmission. I wouldn't have to necessarily get the 10R140, or I don't necessarily have to have it, I should say. So for some people, because you want the most overbuilt truck, maybe you plan on towing heavy a lot more throughout the year, that 10R140 might make more sense because you might not care as much because you're going to be under load more so with this truck. So I would say this might be a better fit. As far as maintenance goes, I don't think that Ford changes the maintenance schedule for those 10 speeds either, so that may not be a big deal either. But I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Let me know your guys' thoughts in the comment section. If you've owned both, or maybe you own the 10R100, I would like to hear your guys' thoughts in the comment section. That way you can help other people out there who might be looking to decide between the two. And stay tuned. I would drive these trucks today, but unfortunately I know this one's sold, so I can't drive it. So once we get another 7.3 in, I'll do a drive comparing the 6.8 and the 7.3, so that way you guys can see the performance and the kind of fuel economy they get in the real world. See you guys soon. So here's the towing capacity. If you're towing conventionally, you guys see 6.8 liter, 7.3. You guys see gross combined rate readings are right here. And then towing capacities are here. Now that 3 does say it does have a trimmer package. So if you're looking at that number, that's basically for that. Now be sure to pause because I'm going to show you the capacities for fifth wheel and gooseneck. So right here, fifth wheel, gooseneck, 6.8, 7.3. Again, gross combined weight ratings are going to stay the same here. And then pretty much if you're looking at the standard bed, also 8-foot bed here. If you're looking at a 4x2 truck, those numbers are here. Super cab, regular cab, and then be sure to pause it down below here for some of the numbers.